Hi, how's everybody doing today? This is Rich here on behalf of Rich TV Live with our very special guest. It is the CEO of Taat Lifestyle and Wellness, Setti Coscarella. How you doing today, Setti?
Good, Rich. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Great to have you on the show today. Now, you guys have had a lot of big news that you guys have been putting out. Just recently, filing of the patent,
That's right.
and you also had some news that you are now engaging Flinnwest.
hmm
So why don't we just go through the patent news first, and then we can talk a little bit about Flinnwest.
Sure. So one of the things that I wanted to ensure when I started was that we had a uh, patentable process. So, when I take a look at a lot of other industries in the tobacco space, like if you take vape as an example, right?
Yeah.
Vape gained popularity very quick after Juul sort of cracked the code in terms of commercialization. But I think one of the overall challenges with vape is that they patented certain technologies when it came to the hardware and delivery system. But when it came to the consumer, they never patented the flavors. So for somebody who would otherwise like menthol as an example, well, I can use menthol on Juul, I can use menthol on Vipe, I can use menthol on Blue or Relax or any other host of vape products. So there's no real stickiness if that's the flavor that I'm going after. And I always thought that it would have been a lot more interesting if they were able to have patented those flavors and create moats around that piece of the business, because that's what I think the consumer actually wants. So when we were looking at the Tat cigarette and creating the Beyond Tobacco base, one of the things that I thought would have been really interesting is if we could have figured out how to take our base from the way it tasted, let's call it off the plant, and then as we process it to taste a lot more like tobacco, is that a novel process? And if it is, can we get a patent on it? So when we consulted with our legal team, they advised that it absolutely would have been novel. I mean, they did a search. There wasn't anybody else that was doing anything like that. So for me, it was a big push to help engineer the process so that we would be able to patent it. That way, when we put the product in market, I mean, it's a complicated process to start, but even if somebody were to figure it out, they wouldn't be able to copy it by law. So that way, we'd be the only ones that can manufacture a cigarette that tastes like tobacco with a different organic base, and nobody else would be able to do it. And I think that gives us an extraordinary advantage in the market. And if you take a look at a lot of the other tobacco companies, what most people wouldn't realize is that they have an extraordinary number of patents. I mean, they're filing hundreds of patents a year on a variety of different things to help give them an advantage in the market and allow them to do things that their competitors can't. So taking some of that knowledge, and this is the first one. As we continue to iterate and develop, I'm sure that we'll figure out ways to patent different things about the process and different brand extensions and different products that we want to offer to the market. So let's call it our first stake in the ground in terms of positioning ourselves in a very defensible way so that we can create the moat around our product that the market would otherwise expect us to have. Some of the questions that I would always get from investors or other people in the industry is, okay, you create this product, but how easy is it for somebody else to knock you off? And while I can sit there and say, when you look at the big tobacco companies, it's not typically in their nature to do that. I mean, if you get some market share, they'll buy you out if you cause enough pain for them. Having a patent, I think, at least allows us to make sure that when we can gain success, nobody else will be able to copy it.
I think that's very valuable. You just protected your entire business by doing that. Now, a question I actually had is patents typically take a long time and are very expensive. So you've started the process. Is there a timeline on how long this will take to actually get completed?
Typically, patents take about 18 months.
Okay.
Once you file, you have some protection in place. So it'd be difficult for somebody to go in and file a similar process after the fact that we filed. So that's why we were really working very hard to make sure that we had the pieces in place so that we could file that patent. and at least put our stake in the ground in terms of a date. So nobody had filed anything like that up until the date that we filed. So if somebody wants to come in and file afterwards, well, clearly we were there first because that's the timestamp that we got. But to kind of run through the entire process, it takes at least 18 months. So the patent office reviews it. As you can imagine, there's probably more than a few patents that exist. So, so we got to let the office do their job and go through and ensure that our process is in fact novel, which we strongly believe it is, and that there is a benefit, which we believe there is. And if so, then you would get the approval to have a patented and protectable process. And that process runs similar to the pharmaceutical industry. So the length of the patent would be approximately 20 years. And then, unless you make certain changes to it that then you can go back and extend it, then it sort of becomes open source. But by that point, if you've done the job right, you built enough of a brand that's what people are gravitating towards. So basically what it does is it gives us enough runway to put together the right plans and build the right brand around the product, so that 20 years from now, when that patent would otherwise expire, it's not because of the patent that people would be purchasing our product, but because of the brand that we would have otherwise developed. Again, I always kind of go back to a brand like Marlboro. Marlboro still enjoys the benefit of the Marlboro Man, even though the Marlboro Man hasn't been seen in decades.
Interesting. Yeah, the Marleys are world famous, and I got a couple of the packs here, guys. Pat looks like this.
Mm-hmm.
We got the original, and we got the menthol pack, and I know you got a pineapple flavor.
A tropical flavor, yeah.
Tropical flavor, that's right. So tropical flavor as well. I actually had a question from someone that asked, just real quick. There
Sure.
was some issues with hemp being unregulated in America in a few states. Did you hear anything about that? I had a question from someone saying, do you hear anything about hemp not being regulated in 4 or 5 states? I guess they're banning it in a couple states in America. Did you hear anything about that? And does that affect your business at all?
Yes, I know about those states. There are some states that have banned the use of combustible hemp.
Yes.
There's about 4 of them. Now, the reason they've banned the combustible hemp is not because they don't believe in the product or because they don't think that it's a good fit for the market. The reason they banned it is because the hemp cigarettes in their current form, a police officer doing a routine traffic stop can't tell if a driver is smoking cannabis or smoking hemp.
Interesting.
No other test for really an officer to tell whether you're high or not behind the wheel. So they smell the car. And the problem is that all the other hemp cigarettes, if you didn't know it was a hemp cigarette, you'd probably think it was cannabis. So with our product, that was one of the other things that we were looking at. And again, why I think the patent is so important is because our finished product doesn't taste like cannabis. It doesn't smell like cannabis. It doesn't look like cannabis. There's nothing about it that would give anyone the impression that you are otherwise smoking something that isn't tobacco. And I think when we can go back to those regulators and say, look, we totally understand your issue and the challenge that you have, but we are here ultimately to help solve that nicotine addiction problem. And I think our product is best positioned to do that. Why don't you try it yourself? And if you think that a police officer wouldn't otherwise be able to tell the difference between somebody smoking cannabis and somebody smoking something like Beyond Tobacco, then don't have it in your state. But if it is different, which I know it is, then maybe you can give us an exemption. Now, those particular states wouldn't be the first ones on my list in terms of commercializing anyway. So there are still 46 other states that allow it. And we're going to be selecting a couple of them to start so that we can build out the right commercialization approach. Because we typically, the way I look at marketing and commercialization in general, it's kind of like an accordion, right? You set your plan, and when it's right, you can expand it or contract it depending on the market with no real loss of effect, right? You try to create this formula for success around it. So when we start in a few of the states that we want to begin commercialization in, I think we'll be able to prove to the market that we know that one, we've got the right product market fit. Two, that we understand how it is to get the product on the shelf from a distribution standpoint. And three, that we've built together a robust plan to help consumers understand the value proposition of our product and then get the product off of the shelf. And when we can prove that to the market, I think then we have a real solid playbook to start commercializing throughout the rest of the United States. And while we start doing that, then we can look at international opportunities as well. So for me, yes, the viewer has the right question. There are a couple of states that have banned it, but again, the reason they banned it is not because of the product, it's because of the effect of the product and policing otherwise impaired drivers. So I think as we start to build momentum, we'll be able to have much more productive conversations with those regulators if we elect to make those states a priority for us from a commercialization standpoint.
Now, you guys just had a news that came out yesterday that you engaged Flinnwest to deploy investor relations strategies and full-scale digital media initiatives for Beyond Tobacco trademark launch.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about this relationship? I think it's important for all companies to gain exposure. So I think it's valuable that you're doing this. And congratulations also on hitting your personal bests. The stock has done extremely well since the IPO. I remember talking about Taat pre-IPO and it was actually at 41 cents, everybody. And we hit well over 20 this week. So I think that's phenomenal result. Obviously 200% up since the IPO and you guys are pre-revenue. So how does it feel? You've had a lot of success and now you're engaging more investor relations. That's going to give you even more visibility. Hopefully that's going to increase more shareholder visibility, shareholder equity. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this new engagement?
Sure. So last time we met when I was out in Vancouver, I had the opportunity to meet Grady Flynn, who's one of the principals at Flinnwest. And I was actually quite impressed with his process and how he thinks about the investor relations function in general, because he takes a bit of a sort of product branding approach to and applying that to the capital markets. So, you know, the software that he uses, the way that he can engage with people who would otherwise want to learn more about the investment opportunity, the information that he's able to provide, the way he structures the information so that it's easy to digest. Because oftentimes, you know, well, how can I put it? Reading a prospectus sometimes isn't the most riveting way to consume information. And now, absolutely, it's important, and everyone should do their due diligence before they make any investment decision. But having the information presented in a way that consumers today would otherwise like to consume that information, I think is important. I think he has a really sound understanding of digital marketing and the fundamentals behind it in terms of getting information out to the widest number of people, and then creating audiences of like-minded people who would otherwise want to know about opportunities like this, but would be difficult to find if you were trying to pick them out in a crowd. So he's got some really interesting things that he does in terms of helping to broaden the investor base and educate people on an opportunity. And then at least they have all the information they need to make a decision. So, you know, I was really happy that we were able to come to agreeable terms, and I really look forward to working with him in the future. And you know, we'll see what he can do, but I've got a lot of confidence in him. So I'm happy we were able to bring him on board.
Yeah, that sounds like something that you know, that is going to really help enhance the visibility, the amount of new potential shareholders, and really maximize all this news that you guys are putting out there, which is absolutely incredible. In fact, I was talking to a friend of mine who's been a longtime smoker. He's probably in his 60s, and he's been a smoker for 40 years. So I just wanted to ask him the question, you know, how would you, you know, Would you try a cigarette if it tasted like a cigarette, smelled like a cigarette, smoked like a cigarette, looked like a cigarette, but it had no nicotine, no tobacco? Would you do it? Would you try it? Would you be interested? He said, of course. Where do I get it?
Yeah,
I'm getting that from every single person, Seti.
I know. Listen,
Every single person. I haven't had one person say, no, 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 I ain't gonna try that.
no, I
With
know.
nicotine, I ain't trying that. Every single person says, yeah, I'll do anything to get off the nicotine.
Exactly. And that's
Crazy.
why you saw so many people running to vape, right? If
Yes.
you take a look at the stats now, I mean, vape, I think in the US is either plateaued a bit or might be in a little bit of decline. But again, it's because it never really solved one of the core problems for smokers, which is the addiction piece. So for a lot of people that end up moving over to vape, let's suppose you smoke 10 cigarettes a day or half a pack of cigarettes a day, right? Now you move over to vape. When you have a cigarette, you still have to go outside, right? So you're going to, especially now that the weather starts to get a little bit colder, you put your jacket on, you go outside, you take your 10-minute break. It's a little bit of time for you, and you enjoy a cigarette. When you have the vape, you're not really doing that. You practically have it in your mouth throughout the whole day. So for somebody that would smoke a half a pack a day, they move over to vape and all of a sudden they feel like they're consuming 3 times the amount. So then that becomes concerning and problematic for them. And what's funny is then they end up going back to cigarettes for a wide variety of reasons, one of which is, I mean, this is just getting ridiculous. So it never solved the problem for them. But what I always found interesting about that is that the problem still prevails. The reason they look for these alternatives is because they're looking for an alternative.
Yes.
The reason they go back to cigarettes is because they haven't found the right alternative. Doesn't mean they stop looking.
Yes.
We're able to go to the market with something that is fundamentally different in terms of the alternatives that are out there, but is still extraordinarily familiar with the ritual they have. How many people do you think are going to try it?
Everybody. I mean, we have a member right now saying, I'm not a smoker and I want to try it.
Well, no, I don't want that.
We've
Listen,
got non-smokers that want to try it. So, and we don't want to make non-smokers smokers. That's not the objective.
no. And look, I mean, this is something that I want to make almost abundantly clear. I'm not looking to recruit people into the category.
I
I don't want to
understand.
get people who don't smoke to start smoking. That's not the goal of this company. That's not what it is that I stand for. That's not what I'm looking to do. There's almost 1.5 billion people who smoke around the world. There's plenty of people who smoke that have an issue that we can come in and help solve. Our product is intended for that consumer base. So I don't want to advertise to people who don't smoke. I don't want people who don't smoke to buy this product, right? I'm not looking to create a new problem. I'm looking to solve the existing one.
And it's a really big problem. I mean, some of the friends that I've talked to that, like, I'm from Toronto, but I'm living in Vancouver. Some of my friends I haven't talked to in 20 years. Oh, you still smoking? I got this new client. Oh, yeah, I still smoke. Well, what do you think about this and that? And when you talk to them about it, they're like, send me a pack. Like,
Right.
everybody's like, send me a pack. How do I get samples? In fact, we've probably received 200 emails of people wanting samples from literally all over the world.
Oh, I get them almost on a daily basis.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah.
So
So
your
one,
message, your story is already global. It's
yeah.
a global story. There are people that are literally in this chat right now from Switzerland, from Canada, from the United States, from Australia, in the chat right now, from multiple countries wanting to get their hands on this product. What do
Mhm.
we say to those people that are trying to get their hands on the product? Is there a way that we can get this product in everybody's hands?
Well, look, I mean, initially for us, I was just having this discussion with Tim, our CRO, and I'm saying, look, we need to take a very disciplined approach to commercialization. So, yeah, I could sell it anywhere and everywhere to start, but you need to build the infrastructure to support that. Otherwise, what ends up happening is you end up getting crushed by your own success. It's not scalable, it's not sustainable, and it's a quick flash, and then you don't know what it is that you're doing or why people are buying it, and you don't have a firm understanding of what to do next. So for us, you know, I like to be a little bit more methodical and disciplined. Uh, Take a couple of weeks, go out, put it in the market, understand exactly what kind of consumer is going to buy it, why they're going to buy it, why they're going to continue to buy it. And then when you have that understanding, you can find a whole host of other consumers that are exactly like that, right? Because there's almost two facets to it. I mean, the product obviously needs to be great, and it is, right? But there's plenty of great products that didn't succeed. Then it becomes an
Absolutely.
exercise in marketing, packaging, and branding. So once you kind of understand who wants to buy your product, then you can find other people who are of like mind and of similar value, and build that branding and deliver that product to that segment of the consumer. I mean, I've used this example, a dozen times already, and I'm sorry if I've already said it here, but I mean, you take Marlboro, right?
Yeah.
Now, Marlboro is the best-selling cigarette in the world. It's got a market share of about 5-6% globally, which means 19 out of 20 people don't like Marlboro. But for the one that does, we do okay. And for the 19 that don't, we've got 100 other brands that they could otherwise go and try. The blends aren't fundamentally different, other than when you start getting into different flavors. But overall, I mean, if you were to take a Marlboro and a Lucky Strike and put them in the same packaging and do a blind taste test, you'd be a little bit harder pressed to figure it out. But there's certain brand attributes of the different brands that people gravitate to, and you have to have a good understanding of that so that you can help build a portfolio of brands that can help that can speak to different segments of the market. So again, when I look at what Beyond Tobacco is, ultimately it's a CPG company. And this is why I don't spend a lot of time talking about, the base or the CBD or any of that, because it's really not about that. It's about having a product that in my mind tastes better than a tobacco-based cigarette, that can deliver an experience that's superior to that of a cigarette and leave a smoker even more satisfied than they would otherwise be having a cigarette. And then you build the brand around that. And then there'll be other brands that will build down the road that'll cater to different segments of the market and different demographics that, would like different kinds of messaging and different taste profiles. And we can absolutely do that. But you got to start somewhere, and you need to build on that, scale, and then grow. And that's exactly what we're planning to do. So, as we get to market, we'll take all of these learnings and apply it in a very disciplined, structured, scalable, and sustainable way. And hopefully before long, we'll be throughout the United States and start getting around the world, because I agree with you. I think that there's a lot of people that would love to try and use this product, and it's my job to get it out to them as quickly as possible, but in a way that makes sense for the business.
Well, you've done a phenomenal job so far. We got 40 people watching. I know that you're in a rush today and you're really busy, and you guys are taking over the world with this new product. So is there anything else you want to leave the shareholders with that are watching right now, that are just really excited about your company and are interested in learning about what's coming next? Anything new or exciting you can say, or anything you can kind of just let the shareholders know?
Well, there's probably nothing I would announce publicly just quite yet, but I think we've come a very long way in a short period of time. And over the next little bit, as we march along towards our in-market launch, we'll definitely have a couple of other interesting announcements. And what I'm really looking most forward to is putting the product in market and actually demonstrating what it can do, right? Because right now we'll sit there and talk about what it could do. In a couple of months, I'll be able to show you exactly what it can do. And that's the piece that I'm most excited about.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Setti Coscarella, the CEO of Taat Lifestyle and Wellness. The company's done extremely well, guys, since pre-IPO, from 41 cents. Today, it's over $1.20. It's 200% growth in a very short period of time, pre-revenue. Very excited to see how the stock performs once the company gets into revenue, and very excited. You've done a phenomenal job, Setti. Continue all the great work, and we'd love to have you back on the show soon.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Rich.
Thank you very much. Setti Coscarella, the CEO of Taat Lifestyle and Wellness. Thank you guys for watching. Everyone, have a great day. If you like this video, smash the like button. Comment down below if you have any questions. You can email me at richtvlive@gmail.com. I will forward it over to Setti. Setti, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds great. You too.
See you later, everybody.
Bye.